What's going on, everybody? This is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A52 and the Apple iPhone 12. Let's get started. So the Samsung Galaxy A52 has a 6.5-inch 90Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 84.6%. We got a hole punch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 32 megapixels. The iPhone 12 has a 6.1-inch OLED display with a resolution of 1170 by 2532, a PPI of 460, an aspect ratio of 19.5:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 86%. We got the front-facing camera right up here, and this camera is 12 megapixels. So the iPhone 12 does have a slightly better resolution than the Samsung Galaxy A52, but at the same time, the Samsung Galaxy A52 has a much larger display, as you can see here. Not only that, but the A52 also has a 90Hz display, whereas the iPhone 12 only has a 60Hz display, and that's going to affect the motion on the screen. With the 90Hz display, it's going to be a lot faster and smoother, whereas with the iPhone 12, having only a 60Hz display, it's not going to be nearly as fast or smooth as the A52 with that 90Hz. So if you're doing a lot of video streaming or high performance gaming where there's a lot of movement on the display, then that 90Hz display is going to come in handy. Now the Samsung Galaxy A52 has 128 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and the iPhone 12 only has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with no microSD card expansion, so the A52 definitely has an advantage here. Now you can get variants of the iPhone with 128 or 256 gigabytes of internal storage, but again, there's no microSD card expansion, and these variants are a lot more expensive. This is only the 64 gigabyte variant that's already a lot more expensive than the A52. Having more storage is definitely important, especially if you have a lot of larger apps or if you take a lot of photos and videos, especially in 4K, because both these phones are capable of shooting 4K in both cameras, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Now, the Samsung Galaxy A52 does not have wireless charging. The iPhone 12 does, so keep that in mind if that's a feature that's important to you. As far as security goes, the A52 has both face unlock and a fingerprint scanner, and the iPhone 12 only has face unlock, so that's a little unfortunate. I don't know why they didn't put a fingerprint scanner on the iPhone. That's one of the many flaws in this phone's design. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not always going to be in a situation where you can easily use face unlock, and a fingerprint scanner is going to be a lot more convenient in those cases. For example, you can't use face unlock in your pocket, whereas with a fingerprint scanner, you can easily unlock the phone no matter what angle you're trying to do it from. Plus, it's just so much more convenient having both. If your face is covered by anything, or if you're trying to unlock your phone from your pocket, whatever the situation may be where you can't use face unlock, then you have to rely on a PIN or passcode as Apple calls it, and it's just not convenient at all. Whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A52, if for whatever reason you can't use face unlock, you can use the fingerprint scanner instead. The Samsung Galaxy A52 has a fingerprint scanner right here on the display, and it works really good, really fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. So as you can see, the Samsung Galaxy A52 has a really fast and responsive fingerprint scanner, and I also think it adds a really nice modern look to it, as opposed to those fingerprint scanners that are either on the power button or on the back, usually somewhere right here. The fingerprint scanner on the display is just a lot more modern and looks a lot nicer. So overall, I do think it's a net advantage, and a pretty big one for me at least, to have a fingerprint scanner with the Samsung Galaxy A52 over the iPhone that only has face unlock. Not having a fingerprint scanner makes no sense, especially since iPhones used to have a fingerprint scanner. I don't know what would have stopped them from developing the technology to have an in-display fingerprint scanner, but that's unfortunately just how it is. Now let's take a look at these phones' rear camera setups. With the Samsung Galaxy A52, we have a 64 megapixel rear camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So this phone has pretty much everything you would need except maybe a telephoto lens, but that is a feature that's more reserved for flagship phones. The camera is going to be really high quality. This phone is also capable of shooting 4K in both the rear and the front camera as far as videos go. And if you are interested in seeing the photo and video quality of the device, be sure to check out the full review of the phone on the channel where you'll get all of that in-depth information. The iPhone 12 has only a 2-camera setup with a 12 megapixel rear camera and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. So this phone doesn't have a macro camera, so definitely keep that in mind if that's a feature that's important to you. Overall, the Samsung Galaxy A52 obviously has much higher megapixel cameras than the iPhone 12, but at the same time, megapixels aren't everything. The sensor really does matter as well. But at the end of the day, both of these phones are going to be really good for high quality photos and videos. Again, keep in mind if you're planning on shooting high quality videos, especially 4K, but also 1080p as well, videos do take up large amounts of space. So between a 64GB iPhone and a 128GB Samsung Galaxy A52, the Samsung Galaxy A52, even if the videos aren't quite as high quality, is going to have a huge advantage with storage. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A52 is getting 6GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 538 and a multi-core score of 1559. The iPhone 12 is getting 4GB of RAM with the Apple A14 Bionic processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 1591 and a multi-core score of 4089. So you're definitely going to see a huge difference in performance here. Although I would say the difference in performance isn't going to be that noticeable if you're just doing normal activities like web browsing and social media. The real time when you're going to see a huge difference is going to be with more high performance activities that are more demanding on the processor, like high performance gaming or photo and video editing. If you're really doing the most demanding things out there, then the iPhone 12 would make sense for you. But if you're just doing normal activities, even more moderate activities like photo editing and a little bit of gaming and shooting videos and that sort of thing, then the A52 is most likely going to be fine. It really just comes down to those high ticket activities like video games with complicated graphics, or maybe editing videos and converting big files and that sort of thing. Now, as far as the battery goes, this is where the Samsung Galaxy A52 is really going to have a big edge. The Samsung Galaxy A52 has a 4500 mAh battery, whereas the iPhone 12 only has a 2815 mAh battery. Now that is a huge difference. With the iPhone 12, this phone sometimes, depending on your usage, doesn't even make it through the whole day without being charged, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A52 can typically go for multiple days without actually being charged. Now this is pretty variable. If you use a phone a ton, non-stop, then it's most likely going to run out of power regardless of how big the battery is. But keep in mind that not only do large batteries like the one in the Samsung Galaxy A52 have more life per charge, but down the road, their longevity is a lot better. Now, in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? The iPhone 12 definitely has some clear advantages over the Samsung Galaxy A52. Being a flagship phone, it has a lot more features, like wireless charging, for example. In addition to that, the resolution is a little bit higher. 1170 by 2532 is a bit higher than 1080p, but at the same time, the Samsung Galaxy A52 does have a 90 Hz display versus the 60 Hz display for the iPhone 12. So if you're doing something like streaming videos or playing a game, then the 90 Hz might give you a better experience. The other thing the iPhone has going for it is the processing power. This phone is unquestionably more powerful than the Samsung Galaxy A52 by a lot too. So if you're doing really high performance activities, the iPhone is going to come in handy. In general, the quality of the materials in the iPhone is, of course, quite a bit better, being that it's a flagship phone and the Samsung Galaxy A52 is not. But at the same time, the A52 has a much larger battery, so it's going to last longer per charge. Plus, it's not going to wear out as fast. Now, the real thing to keep in mind here is that the Samsung Galaxy A52 is a fraction of the price of an iPhone 12. The iPhone 12 is a really expensive phone, and that's just in this base variant with only 64 gigabytes of internal storage, which is really not a lot for these phones, whereas you can get so much more storage with an A52. So really, if it comes down to it, if you absolutely need the best processing power and all the features that come with a flagship phone, then the iPhone would make sense. But otherwise, even if you're using your phone for more moderate activities, there's really not a lot the Samsung Galaxy A52 can't do. So in terms of value, in most situations, the A52 is still going to provide more value. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.